that with us. So welcome to Wine and Wisdom for this week, which is Parshat Bamidbar. We're going to talk about Parshat Bamidbar, of course, but we're also going to talk about Shavuot. And really, we're going to talk about the connection between the two of them. The title of today's class is, I haven't prepared the text to put up. I'll give the introduction while I find the text to be able to put up here. The title of today's class is Equality versus Individuality. Are they in conflict? And here we go. Oops. And it's on page, in the student textbook, it's on page 86. And that's precisely what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about from a Torah perspective, is it equality or individuality that's stressed? In other words, do we care more about the community as a whole, and we look at everybody together and Achdus, and how Achdus means Jewish unity, and how we should all be there for each other and be there together, etc.? Or are we looking at it as, there we go, or, sorry, I apologize for the, there we go. Right, so equality versus individuality, are they in conflict, right? Are we looking at it as we're in this together, we're all in this together, and we care for each other, and we should all be equal, and we should all respect each other for being human beings, etc.? Or is it, I have my individuality, and I have who I am as an individual person, etc.? And more importantly, I guess, are they in conflict? Which is really a very important question. And so the reason we're going to be talking about this today is both because it will come directly out of the Parsha, it will come directly out of Parshat Bamidbar, but it will also come as a perfect introduction to Shavuot, because Shavuot also has a grand theme of unity and individuality to it. Interestingly enough, Parshat Bamidbar is always read the Shabbat before. Shavuot. And while many of us may look at this incidentally, and we say, it's just coincidence, just so happens that it's always like that, etc., or maybe the rabbis wanted it to be that way, etc. But still, it's just happens to be, all right, so they wanted to do it this way, great, fine. But as it so happens, there is a wonderful, sorry, we're just going live on Facebook here, so here we go. Now we're live.
So we're recording now.
And so there is a wonderful Shalah. The Shalah was the Shnei Luchot HaBrit. And in addition to being a commentary on Torah, he's also a commentary on, he involves lots of the Kabbalah. And he shares with us that actually every parsha has a connection with whatever time of the year it is, whether that be a Jewish holiday that's coming, or whether that be even just some sort of occurrence that happens at the same time. There is a spiritual connection between the two of them. And so that's going to be part of what we're going to explore today, is the connection between Parshat Bamidbar and Shavuot, equality versus individuality. All right, without further ado, welcome to Wine and Wisdom, Parshat Bamidbar. We always like to start off with a little summary of the parsha. So you can read it yourself, but I'll go through it really quickly. In this week's Torah portion, which is called Bamidbar, it's the first parsha of the book of Numbers, as it is called. This is one of the strange ones. I obviously understand why it's called Numbers, but it doesn't equate to the Hebrew name, which means Bamidbar, in the desert. That's because many of the episodes that are discussed throughout this book, in other words, not just this week's parsha, but the next few parshas will be episodes that happen during the desert, including at the culmination of the book, the listing of all of the stops that the Jewish people made throughout the desert. A lot of this week's Torah portion is dedicated to Numbers, and I guess that's where the English name comes from. We count all of the tribes, and we count them one at a time. We list where they would camp as they were traveling through the desert, and we go through all of that while counting each tribe individually and then all the Jews as a whole. And that's where we get a complete tally of all the Jews as a whole. We talk a little bit about how when the Jews camped, there was kind of the Mishkan in the middle, the tabernacle in the middle, surrounded by the Kohanim, the Leviim, the Levites, and the rest of the tribes, and exactly how they camped as they traveled. Okay, let's dive right into it. So, before we start with the text, equality has really become a really hot topic over the past couple hundred years, starting from the French Revolution and really continuing with the founding of the United States and our Constitution. We always talk about equality, right? The necessity that all human beings are created equal, that we are all equal, whether it's under the law or whether it's all equal to each other. We all have equal opportunity. We should give each other equal opportunity, etc. So what does the Torah have to say about this? As it turns out, our lesson today is going to be split into 3 sections. In the first section, we will bring all of the sources in the Torah, which actually talk about and emphasize and play up the importance of equality and how big a deal it is in Judaism that everybody should be equal with each other and in harmony and unity with each other. We're going to spend the second section, first we'll challenge that, and then we'll spend the second section bringing lots of sources from the Torah where individuality shines. And it's all about human being as an individual and what we can accomplish as an individual. We shouldn't let others influence us, etc. And then, hopefully in section 3, we'll create the harmony between them. What is the Jewish view on the difference between equality and individuality and how they play into each other and they work harmoniously. So without further ado, let's dive into text number 1. Arnold, you want to get us started?
Okay.
This is from this week's Torah portion. Sorry, this is not from this week's Torah portion, actually. This is from, this is also the connection with Shavuot. With Shavuot is all about unity, in that when the Jewish people were camped at Sinai, right before they received the Torah, and there was a whole revelation at Sinai, etc. Immediately preceding that, the following verse appears. Go ahead.
Could you make it a little bit bigger?
Absolutely. Sorry about that. I usually do. I forgot.
Okay. In the 3rd month of the children of Israel's departure from Egypt, on this day, they arrived in the desert of Sinai. They journeyed from Rephidim, and they arrived in the desert. You got it. And they encamped in the desert, and Israel encamped there opposite the mountain. Okay.
Now, in English, the word encamped might not be so significant, but in Hebrew, there is a very interesting difference between and he encamped or and they encamped. And we're going to get to that in just a moment, but here the singular vernacular is used. Okay? And this is going to help us explain this section from Shulchan Aruch, which is La'olam Korin Parshat Bamidbar Sinai Kodem Atzeret. The Torah portion of Bamidbar is always read before the holiday of Shavuot, as we mentioned in our introduction. So, what is the nuance that we see in this verse? Arnold, you want to continue reading for us? Text 3 is the Rashi on that verse which you just read.
And Israel encamped there, as one man with one heart, but all the other encampments were with the complaints and with strife.
So, this camping at Sinai was the first of 40. Was the first of 42 during the 40 years of the Jewish people traveling through the desert and on their way to Israel. And of course, that's where the Jewish people received the Torah. And the Torah says that Israel encamped there across the mountain. But Rashi quotes these words, and Israel encamped there, or in Hebrew, Vayichan Sham Yisrael. Rashi says it's strange. Why would it say Vayichan, which is the singular form for camping? Why wouldn't it say Vayachanu? And they camped. Instead it says, and he camped. Obviously it's talking about Israel. Rashi explains because when they camped there, and this is part of what brought about the revelation at Sinai, was this tremendous unity there was between the Jewish people. They were like one people with one heart. There was no strife and no complaints among the Jewish people. Then Rashi adds derogatorily that throughout the rest of the traveling that the Jewish people did in the desert, there was, as we know, much complaining and friction between the camps, between the tribes, etc., between Jews, etc. So unity is not just an important thing. Unity is the important thing, which actually got us to the revelation at Sinai, to what made us a people, to the giving of the Torah. But as it turns out, that unity being a prerequisite for Torah is not something that was limited back then to when we were at Sinai and there was the revelation, etc. But it's actually every time we study Torah, there is this prerequisite of unity required. In text 4, Stephanie, you want to read for us? In text 4, we just pull it up here. This is from the Siddur. And this is a prayer that we say 3 times a day as part of the Shemona Esrei, as part of the Amidah. We say the Sim Shalom prayer. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. So as Stephanie reads it for us, tell me what strikes you as interesting about what we pray for. Go for it.
Bestow peace, goodness, and blessing, life's graciousness, kindness, and mercy upon us and upon all your people. Israel, bless us, our Father, all of us as one, with the light of your countenance. For by the light of your countenance, you gave us, Lord, our Hashem, the Torah of life and loving kindness, righteousness, blessing, mercy, life, and peace. May it be favorable in your eyes to bless your people, Israel, at all times and at every moment with your peace. Emphasis added.
Okay, so there's emphasis added, but let's talk about that emphasis, right? Note how it says, bless us, our Father, all of us as one. In other words, before we can ask for a blessing for Torah, which is one of the main things that we're asking for in this prayer that we say every day, 3 times a day as part of the Shemona Esrei. Bless us all as one with your countenance. Why? Because by your countenance, you have given us the Torah of life and of kindness, etc., etc. Right? So when it comes to Torah, there's this prerequisite of we have to be all as one. Even when we're asking for a blessing from God for Torah, we say, God, bless us as one. This does not stop here. If you move along to the Mishnah, you'll find a similar refrain. Text 5. Sorry, trying to get through the pages here without skipping anything. Text 5. Malka, you want to read for us a little bit? This is from the Mishnah.
Okay, can you hear me okay though?
We hear you perfectly.
Okay. The Holy One, blessed be he, found no vessel that could contain blessing for Israel save that of peace. As it is stated, God will give strength unto his people. God will bless his people with peace.
So we should be one. We should be peaceful. We should all live in harmony. Kumbaya, right? Sounds great, right? For those of you that live with me, together with me in this world, you know that it's not so simple. So how is it that we can look around at each other and be peaceful with each other? How can we be as one, right? They say if there's 2 Jews, there's 4 opinions, right? So then how can we ever think that we can ever live all together as one? How can that ever happen? So don't worry, Tasidus always has your back. Chapter 32, which probably not by coincidence is, or historically not by coincidence, is the gematria of Lev, which means heart. So in chapter 32 of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe shares with us a very, very powerful point. So for a little context, I know many of you have been at the Tanya class, but still, for a little context, chapter 31 is spent talking a little bit about, not really at great length, but it spends some time talking about how we have to figure out a way not to make our bodies the most significant thing, but that we should recognize that our bodies are not the more significant, and our souls are just, kind of secondary here. But we should recognize that our souls are the primary focus here in life, and our bodies are secondary. So the Alter Rebbe picks up from here, and he said, the whole chapter 32, which, like we said, is a gematria of Lev, which means heart. So the heart of Tanya talks about how we should use our hearts to love each other, and it says that if you want to love every single Jew as yourself, if you want to have this equality, kumbaya kind of feeling, then here's what you should do. Very simple. Right off chapter 31. Make souls the most important thing in your life and not bodies. Now, I look at Kalman and I see that he's, I don't know how tall you are, Kalman, 5'8", whatever, I don't know what it is, 6'1". whatever it is, right? And I look at Arnold and I say he's X amount of years old. And I look at Stephanie and I say, oh, she's from a different gender than I am. And everybody I find what's different than me. Why is it so simple to find what's different about everybody that's around us? That's because we're looking at external trappings, right? We're looking at this person for their height, another person for their age, another person for their gender, but all of those are physical concepts. Those are all related to your body. However, if I were to choose to look at Kalman and at Arnold and at Stephanie, and I don't mean to leave anybody out here, but instead of looking at them as a body, to look at them as a soul, then I can see past the superficial trappings and I can actually learn to live as one with them. Let's see it in the Alter Rebbe's words. Julie, you want to read for us? Text 6.
Sure. It is possible inasmuch as our souls are all paired, one with the other, one with parent. Thus all Jews are called siblings by virtue of the root of their soul in one God. It is only the bodies that are distinct. So
says the Alter Rebbe, if you want to achieve true unity, look at each other as souls. And as souls, we all come from the same place. Right? All of our souls come from the same place. Not just that we're even part of one whole. That's not just a nice cliche. It's actually a true statement. Every soul, as the Medrash tells us, or possibly it's the Talmud, I do not remember exactly the source of this quote, is chatsuba mitachas kisei hakavod, that it is carved out from under God's heavenly throne. So all of the souls of every single Jew throughout this world we all come from one, right? As the Alter Rebbe introduces at the beginning of Tanya, all chelik l'kam mamash, a part of God. All right, should we end the class here? We all sing Kumbaya? What do you guys say? No. All right. So in section 2, we'll take some time to challenge that. Okay? Equality sounds like a great thing, right? Everybody should be the same, right? Everybody should treat one another as the same. Let's all look at each other as souls. If we can all look at each other as exactly the same, right? We found somewhere inside a human being where they're the exact same as me, and then we can all live equally. We can all live in harmony. It turns out that we don't have to look very far in order to find where this equality was taken all the way to the extreme. Alan, you want to read for us a little bit?
Yeah.
This is a medrash that talks about the city of Sodom, yes, of the famous Sodom and Gomorrah, which Abraham pleaded on their behalf, and God eventually destroyed. Go for it.
When a pauper would enter Sodom and thereafter wish to leave, they would immediately lay him down in a short bed. The portion of his legs that would extend over the edge of the bed would be cut off. If the person was short, they would lie him down in a long bed, hold him down, and stretch him out until his body filled the bed. They would do this until he died.
So many of you, thank God, looked at me strangely when I suggested that you might judge somebody by their height, right? And we do know that there are some people out there that would judge other people by their height, right? Maybe they would judge how much of an ability they have to be successful in life based on whether it's their looks or their height or whatever it is, right? But hopefully, nobody in today's day and age, thankfully, judges people so much to say, oh, you're too tall, we got to make you short, so we're going to chop off your legs. Or the opposite, heaven forbid, right? But in this absurd fashion, the people of Sodom beautifully demonstrated for us how absurd it would be to say everybody has to be equal, right? We all of a sudden recognize right away that equality has to have some sort of limit, right? But the question is, how far should that limit go, right? Yes, certainly everybody should be allowed to be their own height. Everybody should have their own individuality. But if we have too much of our individuality, if we focus too much on ourselves, then the unity disappears, right? Let's see an abundant resource of sources, collection of sources, where the Torah stresses, as opposed to unity, which we stressed in the first section, individuality. Beginning with, you guessed it, this week's Torah portion. In this week's Torah portion, we learn not just about the numbers of the Jewish people, but we also learn about how the Jewish people count. And as we do so, right, so we're going to quote a little bit from this week's Torah portion, but we're going to skip around a little bit. All of the numbers are removed because they're not relevant to our conversation right now. What we're going to talk about is, instead, the way that the Jewish people camped as they traveled through the desert. Kalman, you want to read for us?
Oh, me? Sorry.
Kalman.
Kalman, you say Kalman or Alan?
Yeah, Kalman, go for it.
Oh, go ahead.
The children of Israel shall encamp, each man by his division, with the flagstaff of their father's house. Some distance from the tent of meetings they shall encamp.
Right away we see the word division. Go ahead.
Those camping in front to the east were the legions under the division of the camp of Yehuda. The prince of the children of Yehuda was Nachshon, the son of Aminadab. The legions under the division of the camp of Reuven were to the south. The prince of the children of Reuven was Elitzur, the son of Shdeir.
All right, and on the next page we continue.
Then the tent of the meeting shall set out with the Levite camp in the center of other camps, just as the camp, so that they shall travel, each man in his place by their divisions. The legions under the division of the camp of Ephraim were to the west. The prince of the children of Ephraim was Elishama, the son of Amihud. The legions under the division of the camp of Dan were to the north. The prince of the children of Dan was Achiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. These are the numbers of the Israelites according to their fathers' houses. The total number of legions of the camps was 603,550.
So I pointed out the word division right at the beginning, but I want to point out that there's actually two divisions that are being mentioned in these verses. I don't know if everybody caught them, so I'll summarize here just for a moment. Number one is there was Machane Shchina, Machane, I think it was called Kehuna, and then Machane Yisrael, which means there was in the center, there was the camp, which had the Mishkan, which had the tabernacle, that had a certain level of holiness. Not everybody was allowed to come into that camp. Out surrounding that was the camp of the Levites and the Kohanim, and the priests, and they basically surrounded that, and they had their own level of holiness. And surrounding that were the rest of the Jews, all right? One division, right? Already we have one division, the Jews being split up into three sections. But that's not enough. When you got to the Jews, there was another division, divided into four. To the east, you had Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zebulun. To the south, you had Reuven, Shimon, and Gad. To the west, you had Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin. To the north, you had Dan, Asher, and Naphtali. And obviously, besides that, you had the tribe of Levi in the center with the Mishkan. It's plainly obvious that Hashem actually specifically wanted there to be division among the Jewish people, right? Those of you that are familiar know that these tribes were not just the way they traveled, but they actually played a role throughout the history of the Jewish people in the desert and throughout. Depending what tribe you were from, that's when you brought sacrifices. That's when your prince did certain things. You had certain roles that you played as part of the Jewish people. This tribe is famous for this. That tribe is famous for that. When they came to the land of Israel, they divided the whole land of Israel. Has anybody noticed how many times I've said the word division or divided? They divided the entire land of Israel as per the tribes. Okay? Now, this concept of being divided as per the tribes, which you may have seen, by the way, sometimes this is depicted in some beautiful artwork. I have one hanging in my own home downstairs. I won't rush now to get it, but maybe at the end, those who stick around, I'll show you. It's a piece of artwork that has kind of a, I don't think it's what we actually know was the flag of each of the 12 tribes, but it's kind of a depiction of it. And you may have seen this in shuls, in synagogues throughout the country, throughout the world. There are synagogues that have the 12 tribes around the shul. You know, they'll have 12 different, maybe stained glass windows or something like that. And each one will have, because every tribe was known for different things, and they played a different role as part of the Jewish people. Zebulun, for instance, they were the porters. They were the importers and the exporters. Yisachar, they were the Torah scholars. Everybody knew that they were the Torah scholars. The Levites, of course, were the priests. Shevet Dan, even while they were wandering in the desert, everybody knew they were the kind of like lost and found. The Asr of the Cholamachanot, it says. They gathered anything that was lost. They were the last ones behind everybody that would gather anything that was left by any of the tribes, and anybody could come and get it from them. Where did this division come from? So, of course, it follows the 12 sons of Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, our forefather, and Joseph being split into two, for those who are familiar. But in text 9, we see an interesting concept about how the Jews actually requested that they wanted there to be tribes, and they wanted there to be flags and this division. So this is from the Medrash, from Medrash Rabbah, on these verses from our Parshat. So it would be chapter 2, verse 3, which we actually just quoted, or one of the verses that we just quoted. Arnold, do you want to read this for us?
Okay. When God appeared to the Jewish people on Mount Sinai, 22,000 angels accompanied him, all under the banner of different flags. When the Jews saw that they were grouped under different flags, they were aroused with the desire for flags as well, stating, "We wish we could make flags like that." God explained, "You want flags? By my life, your request will be fulfilled." Immediately, God informed the Jewish people of the command and told Moses to instruct the Jewish people to make flags as they wished.
So many of you are looking at this and are trying to picture it. And thank God the secular world has helped us have images of angels. We know they have wings, they have halos. I don't know where these things come from. That's my knowledge. It's not from the Torah. I mean, wings maybe come from the cherubim, which there were on the Ark of the Covenant that was in the Mishkan. But in any event, what does it mean that these angels had flags, right? So we're trying to picture this. So let's turn to a very interesting commentator, really just from the 17th century. Did we get there already? Yeah, this is it. Hold on. So text 10. And he explains what was going on in this story. Stephanie, you want to read for us?
It says the Jews saw the angels under their flags, namely that no angel intruded into their I don't know what that word is.
Colleagues lane.
Colleagues lane. Michael doesn't introduce into Gabriel's lane, etc. Rather, every angel stays in his lane and perceives Hashem godliness accordingly. The Jews wish for the same thing starting. If only we would do the same thing, if only no one would push another to try and reach past the appropriated levels for them. Hashem said to Moses, do it for them. In other words, in as much as you wanted flags, namely that no one intruded into the next person's lane. Rather, every person should receive what is appropriate in their levels of readiness. Do it. The Levites will be in one group and the rest of the Jews in another, each one in their own group, some on the east and the others on the south. Everyone will associate with their own likeliness. For the tribes that camp under one flag were associated with one another.
So, the Jews saw the angel under their flags, namely that no angel intruded into their colleagues' lane. This touches on one of the most fundamental differences between human beings and angels. Angels, and I'll give you some examples in just a moment, cannot be, they cannot multitask, let's call it in modern lingo. They cannot do two jobs at once. Some of you are familiar that the Malach Raphael is in charge of healing. Malach Michael has another job. Malach Gabriel has another job. Each one is in charge of different things, and they have a different path with which they harness the energy of Hashem and how they serve Hashem. It's very robotic. It's very this way, and I can't do it any other way. I can never change. I can never choose to do two different types, certainly not two opposite types. One of the places where this is most evident, hold on one second. Okay, good. See you. One of the examples where this is most evident is when the angels come to visit Abraham. So Abraham has just circumcised himself. This is Parshat Vayera, the fourth Parshat of the Torah. And we're told that he's visited by three people, and Rashi tells us these are three angels. And the angels come, and Rashi explains that each one of them had a different mission. One's mission was to tell Sarah that she was going to be having a baby. Another one's mission was to save Lot and his family. And the other one's mission was to destroy the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. And the obvious question is, why do you need to have three angels? What, they just like company, right? And so Rashi explains to us that that's the way it works. Angels are one-dimensional. They get their job. That's the type of job they do. Maybe they can do it over and over again. They can do it in different ways, but it's all the same idea. That's their path, and that's the way they do it. If they're introverted, they're introverted. If they're out, I don't know if introverted and extroverted exists by angels, but everyone has their one-dimensional way. And this is what the Jewish people saw about the angels, and they loved this. They saw these flags. This one is tagged. He's labeled. This one is labeled. And everybody stays in their place, and nobody tries to go above their stature and their status. The Jewish people said, we want that. We want that. We want to know our place, and that's where we should be. So Hashem said, okay, no problem. Great idea. Moses is going to lead the way, and he will split you guys into tribes, give you each a flag, and tell you where to camp, and that's where you will be. Individuality at least on a macro level, right? Split into groups. Okay, but at least, hopefully, between the tribes, they were one, right? And they were unified. It turns out that no, if you keep going through Jewish literature, you find a tremendous stress on the individual. Nowhere more, as it is hopefully in the modern world today, than in education. Chanoch lanar al pi darko, says Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon. Train a child according to his way. And then, even when he grows old, he will not turn away from it. Says King Solomon, you want to educate a child in a way that will be long-lasting, it will last for his whole life, and even as he gets older, he will not stray from that path, because you'll have given him the proper path for life. Teach him according to his way. Find how to talk to him on his level. He likes whatever it is, find a way, find that entryway into his heart. He likes, he's introverted, he's extroverted. He likes competition, he likes things. Whatever it is, ask educators around the world. They're all trying to do this. Try to find the buttons that help this child tick. In Pirkei Avot, we get some more detail based on this verse from King Solomon. Malka, you want to read this for us? And it tells us to speak of different types of disciples, and we should learn how to train and how to educate each disciple, each student in their way. 4 categories. Go for it.
There are 4 types of disciples. Quick to comprehend and quick to forget. His gain disappears in his loss. Slow to comprehend and slow to forget. His loss disappears in his gain. Quick to comprehend and slow to forget. He is the wise man. Slow to comprehend and quick to forget. This is an evil portion.
So what is going on over here, right? What is all this division about? What is all this individuality about? We're stressing that even though we might all look the same physically, we gotta figure out a way. Right? So I know last time we were saying the opposite. Well, each of us looks different physically, and if you dig deep down, we're all the same. But in a way, it's the opposite. When we look at everybody looks the same. We're all human beings. But as you get deeper, you see that everybody has their own personality and their own way of dealing with things. This was one of the struggles of the Alter Rebbe when he wrote the Tanya. When the Alter Rebbe wrote his foundational work, his magnum opus, about Chassidus, in other words, bringing Chassidus to the masses, everything that we learn in Chassidus still today is based on that, at least to a large degree, right? In his introduction to the book, which is a fascinating introduction, by the way, and worthy of study in its own right, he says, I struggle with this. How am I supposed to talk to every single person? Everybody should find an answer inside a book. And his eventual solution is that there's actually no way to do that, and that his book is only going to help so much, but that everybody has to have a mentor that's going to help them read and see themselves inside the book. But let's read his at least a little bit of his introduction, where he talks. Julie, you want to read for us? Where he talks a little bit about different personalities. Go for it.
Even in the case of the laws governing things prohibited and permitted, which have been revealed to us and to our children, we find differences of opinion among Tanaim and Amoraim from one extreme to the other. Yet these as well as these are the words of the living God, a reference to the source of life for the souls of Israel, which are generally divided in 3 categories, right, left, and center, namely Hesed, kindness, Gevurah, discipline, etc. Accordingly, these souls that stem from the category of kindness are likewise inclined toward kindness and the leniency of their decisions and so forth, as is known. If diversity of legal opinions are subject to the source of one soul, then there will certainly be diversity with those matters that are more private, namely the emotions of love and fear of God, every person according to how they estimate it in their own heart. Thank
you, Julie. So the Alter Rebbe highlights that if you go through the Talmud, right, Tanaim and Amoraim, those are the sages of the Mishnah and the sages of the Talmud, respectively. If you go through the Mishnah and the Talmud, and I know that many of you on this class, on this online class, have, or at least have been through, a little bit here and there, you will notice one thing immediately. You cannot get through 6 lines in the Talmud without there being a disagreement, without there being division. And the Alter Rebbe says that as you flip through it, you notice not just division, but the division has a kind of coherence to it. Shammai and Hillel are always arguing. Almost always, well, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, almost always Beit Shammai and Shammai are more stringent than Hillel and Beit Hillel. If you go through all the various disagreements, you'll start to see patterns form. almost as if you can see their personalities jumping up at you from the page. Oh, of course, this one is going to say that. That fits directly in line with everything that he said. In fact, this is not something that I engage in. I mean, I try to every once in a while, but it's way beyond my level of bekios, of how well versed I am in the Talmud. But the Rebbe did this on many occasions, which is the exercise called lishitase. Lishitase means when you go through the Talmud with one person, and a friend of mine actually did this. His name is Rabbi Binyamin Biton. He's a rabbi in Vancouver, Canada. And he put out a book called Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol. His book is the whole name of his book is Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol. He's analyzing just one rabbi, all of his opinions throughout the entire Talmud, and he's trying to form his personality based on the words and the opinions that he has given us throughout the Talmud. And the Rebbe did this many times as well, showing how there were deep-seated opinions here. There were deep-seated beliefs. There were deep-seated differences of personality, of who they were on the inside that brought about, that caused these differences of opinion throughout the Talmud when it came to legal matters. So says the Alter Rebbe, if this is, and the Alter Rebbe doesn't shy away, but he says, yeah, some of them, their souls must have come more from the right side, from the left side, from, right? What in today's day and age we would call right brain and left brain, right? You know, more chesed aligned, more kindness aligned, more severity aligned, etc. So says the Alter Rebbe, if this is the case when it comes to legal matters and people that are having these conversations and trying to be as objective as they can, so certainly when it comes to things where we allow ourselves to be subjective, we say, this is me, this is my private affair, and it really doesn't depend on anybody else. I don't need to be objective. I need to be subjective. I need to think about myself and how I deal with this. Namely, our emotions, our relationship with God. Says the Alter, when it comes to this, it must be even more exaggerated. This point must be even more true, right? That every person is different. As the Kutzker said, and I put this on Facebook for those of you that were following the tongue twister here. And there's a great video that an a cappella group put out where you can listen to them sing this because it's just great lyrics for a song without even changing anything. The Kutzker Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kutz, you can read about him on the side there if you'd like. He says as follows. Alan, you want to try it? It's a tongue twister. You want to try it?
Yeah. If I am I because I am I, and you are you because you are you, then I am I and you are you. But if I am I because you are you, and you are you because I am I, then I am not I and you are not you.
The Kutzker Rebbe reminds us, you have to be true to yourself. I don't know how more individualistic we're going to get than this. He says you have to be true to your personality, right? Don't look at somebody else. If you are you only because I am I, and I am I only because you are you, in other words, we look at each other in order to form who we are on the inside, then we're not truly being ourselves. But if we can truly be ourselves, regardless of what anybody else around us has to say, more individualistic than that you can't get, then we will be true to ourselves, and then we will truly be who we can be. My friends, I don't know what to say. Are we supposed to be unified, looking at each other as each one a soul? We're all part of one whole. We're all in this together. Unity, 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 equal, right? Or should we be being true to ourselves? I have to worry about me, and you have to be worried about you. I have to provide for my family, and you have to provide for your family. I have to be worried about my mental health, and you have to be worried about your mental health. I have to be worried about my service of Hashem, you have to be worried about your service of Hashem. Which way do we go? Neither of them really, truly sound like they're perfect. It's obviously some sort of harmony between the two of them. So indeed, the Alter Rebbe shares with us some very, very deep insights, or poignant, I should say, not deep, but poignant insights. He says the real truth is that it's a combination between the two of them. He says we all complement each other. And the analogy that he uses is that we are like different limbs of one body. Fishel, you want to read for us? I don't know if you're there. I can't see because I can't see your video. Fishel? I guess not. So Kalman, go for it. We're back in the Stony Lane.
Every Jew is part of one large body. For every Jew possesses a certain quality that no one else does, and together they all complement each other. It turns out that everyone possesses a certain quality that places them at an advantage over the next person, and in that respect, the next person needs them. Take the human body, for example, with its respective parts, the head all the way to the feet. Yes, the feet are the lowest part, and the head is far superior. Yet, in certain respect, the feet have the distinction that the head needs them to go anywhere. What's more, the feet literally uphold the entire body, including the head. It turns out that the head is incomplete without the feet. The same is with the body of the Jewish people. It turns out that even for the person who thinks they are ahead relative to their counterpart, the reality is that they are lacking without the other person. There is a hole in their soul that the other person fills. Realizing that ought to humiliate and subdue them in the face of their counterpart.
Here, the Alter Rebbe gifts us with the key to unlock the answer to our predicament. He says the reality is that there's no conflict between individualism or individuality and equality. They should ideally harmonize between each other. What does that mean? The true way to actually live in unity with other people is to recognize the unique part that they bring to the table. Just as in an army, if the five-star general is leading the entire battle, we're not to value a low-ranking, not even officer, but a low-ranking foot soldier. He is deceiving himself, because while the foot soldier might be disposable, he is at the same time indispensable. While he might be replaceable, without all of these foot soldiers, the general is nothing. If he doesn't recognize that there is validity to the foot soldier's position, and there's validity to his position, and that really, on that level, they're equal, that each one of them without the other would be worthless, together they can fight the battle, then he's really first of all, he's not a successful general, but he's also deceiving himself. He's not aware of the truth. We should recognize that while, yes, there are Jews that are heads, and there are Jews that are feet, but every person plays a unique role, and Hashem wanted all of us in this world to accomplish the mission that there is in this world. So many of you are thinking, and you're trying to figure out what you are, right? Am I the feet? Am I the toes, the toenails? What am I, right? Am I the knee, right? So here's an interesting story, okay? That's what it is. It's literally a story. Arnold, you want to read it for us? This is from the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, and you can see it's a really long text. And it's basically a story of two souls that came down into this world, and unfortunately they made a mistake, and they didn't fulfill the right mission that they were supposed to. And as a result, they had to come down again. Arnold, go for it.
When the soul is descended from on high to integrate into a physical body, it has a particular mission, and we must be careful not to end up as one of the wandering souls. The Alter Rebbe told a story to illustrate the concept of the wandering soul of a wealthy man and his wagon driver. Back in the day, pious wealthy merchants would only travel on business during certain seasons, using the rest of the time to study Torah. It happened once that a certain wealthy man arrived with a wagon driver to a city Friday afternoon before Shabbat. The wealthy man went to mikvah, ritual bath, in honor of the Shabbat, dressed in his Shabbat finery, and made his way to the synagogue. On the way, he saw a large wagon stuck in the mud on the road. Aware of the mitzvah to aid a stranded traveler, he went to go and help the helpless wagon driver. Not used to such a heavy labor, he got completely filthy and worn out, hurting and maiming himself. In the process, eventually he hobbled into the synagogue to pray faithful and
Filthy and hurt.
Filthy and hurt, sorry, yes. The wagon driver also went to the synagogue after washing up for Sabbath. Arriving early, he passed the time reciting psalms. He met a few people. He met a few poor travelers and invited them over. to eat the Sabbath meal with him, racking up a guest list of 10 people. After davening, when the Gabbai of the synagogue wished to split up the guests between the various number of the community, all the travelers explained that they already had where to go, to the wagon driver. So it happened that after the prayers, the wealthy man went to his home went home to his host, maimed and bruised, while the wagon driver took 10 guests home. The wealthy man fulfilled the mitzvah of aiding travelers, while the wagon driver fulfilled the mitzvah of inviting guests. After 120 years, when both...
Which means after they passed away and they came up to heaven.
Okay. When both protagonists arrived at the heavenly court, it was ruled that the wagon driver must return to the world to fulfill the mitzvah of aiding travelers, and the wealthy man must have to return to fulfill the mitzvah of inviting guests. Everyone has their unique mission. We must know what that mission is so as not to mistakenly switch it with someone else. But from the perspective of God, who assigns each mission, they are all the same.
So this story teaches us a very, very important lesson. It teaches us the lesson that each person has their own unique mission. You have your individuality. And like the Kotzker says, you shouldn't try to be like someone else, right? If I am I, like you are you, right, etc. He says, this wagon driver was trying to do a mitzvah that wasn't his mitzvah. It wasn't what his neshama was supposed to be doing. He was trying to be like someone else. He said, I want to be like my rich host, like my rich boss, and host guests. And the wealthy man, who his job was to host guests, his job his mission in this world should have been to host many guests. That was his soul's purpose in this world. And instead, he was helping a wagon driver. So when they came up to heaven, they said, you guys got to go back down because your souls didn't accomplish their mission in this world. Right? So it is, my friends, with many of us. We look around this world and we're not true to ourselves. We look at ourselves and we say, oh, this person is married. I should certainly be married like them. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a mitzvah in the Torah to get married. There is, and every person should try to pursue that. But we should recognize that if that doesn't happen, our role is not to be married and to accomplish something as not married. If our position is to be wealthy, then we will be wealthy and then we'll be able to give tzedakah. We should never say, oh, I can't give $1 million like so-and-so, so therefore my $54 doesn't help, right? It doesn't make a difference. Every neshama has its particular role of what it's supposed to accomplish in this world. It might be $1 million of tzedakah, it might be 54. It might be getting married, it might be sponsoring a shul, it might be praying for hours on end, right? It might be, by the way, even for those that are married, it might be being married to a specific person. We wonder, why am I married to this kind of person when someone else is married to that kind of person, right? This is how we are as human beings. We look around at the Joneses and we want to keep up with them. We say, oh, this guy has this type of marriage. My marriage should be like that, right? And I'm not blaming social media, but it definitely exacerbates the problem, right? So back to our missions here in this world, the important lesson from this story is stick to your mission. Stop looking for other missions in this world. Stick to your mission and try to accomplish it. But note the last two lines. That even as we are all being unique and true to ourselves, we should remember that from the perspective of Hashem, who is the one who assigns us each our mission, we are all exactly the same. So back to Sinai, where the Jewish people are encamped at the foot of the mountain. And the Torah specifically sends us a powerful message home. Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged hahar. That the Jewish people in the singular camped at the foot of the mountain. Right?
Yeah.
This is a powerful, powerful lesson for us. We should all be there, each as an individual person, but at the same time, recognizing the uniqueness that everybody plays in this global mission and respecting each other for it and living together in unity and as harmony. This is why, by the way, we try, and I know that this year it's a lot more difficult, but for those of you that have the ability, they definitely should. We try to make sure that specifically when it comes to the 10 Commandments, every single person, no matter what level of observance they are, no matter what level of, let's let the text speak for itself, that everyone should hear the 10 Commandments. Why the 10 Commandments? I don't understand. Shouldn't they hear everything? Shouldn't everything shouldn't all Torah be important for us to hear? Yes, but 10 commandments that have that message of unity out of our uniqueness is from the most powerful there. Alan, you want to read for us?
Yeah. All children from the age of 1 month, even tiny infants, should accompany their parents to hear the Torah being read, particularly the 10 Commandments on Shavuot. They should do so in a holy place with a congregation of many tens of people, with a blessing prior and following the reading. This replicates the scene of the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai.
And that's the idea. Every single person should be there, regardless of how old they are, regardless of their level of observance, etc. By the way, this is not just something that when we hear the Torah, we should make sure that we are all coming and we're all stepping forward as a whole, as a unified unit. That's a little redundant. But this is actually something we can see interestingly in the 10 Commandments themselves. And if you're not going to be in a shul this Shavuot because of coronavirus, I encourage you to make sure you read the 10 Commandments. Shavuot is this coming Thursday night, so on Friday morning at some point, open up a Chumash and read the 10 Commandments and pay attention to this point that the Ramban or Nachmanides points out to us. Stephanie, you want to read for us?
Okay. All the commandments are started in a singular language to give warning that every individual is personally responsible for the mitzvot and will be punished accordingly. No one should think that punishment will only be metered out communally when the majority sins, and that the individual will get away with sin.
So both of these things are stressed as we see throughout the giving of the Torah, because that's the blueprint that God is laying out for us as we set out on our journeys to make a difference in the world. Equality and individuality. Every single person should be in shul. Let's all be there as one whole. Let's camp at the foot of the mountain as one nation, with one heart. All of us equal, all of us the same. But let's not forget that when Hashem is telling us the commandments, He's telling them to me, as who I am, as for my financial situation, as per my marital status, as per my abilities, as per my emotions, as per my tendencies, and everything. Hashem wants us both to be one and separate. We should be unified and individual. We should be equal, but at the same time, unique. So, I want to end off by saying L'chaim. On the theme of us each being unique and each of us having our own mission. There are some of us on this call that probably struggle with unity. They're so busy being their own individual person that it's hard for them to recognize that other people also have to be their own individual selves, that we should all live together as a unit. Other people don't struggle with that. That's the easiest thing for them, to live as a unit. And they're there for the community. And they're always helping each other. They see other people, they're helping other people, etc. But they're not focused on their own mission. They're not focused on their own individuality and what they should be doing. So l'chaim. Let's learn the balance. Let's receive the Torah again this coming. Is that a baby bottle, Talman?
It's a water bottle.
It's a water bottle, okay. So l'chaim. Let's learn the balance and let's receive the Torah again this Friday. As we read the 10 Commandments, we hear the 10 Commandments, or we read them on our own from the Chumash, whatever it is. Receive the Torah. And I'd like to wish you all personally, as Hasidim always wish each other, that the Kabbalah Satorah, the receiving of the Torah that we're going to experience anew this year, should be not just besimcha, joyously, certainly, right? You should have a happy Shavuot, enjoy your cheesecake, enjoy the whole Shavuot shebang, right? But at the same time, it should be activious. It should be internal. It should be something that affects you on an individual and on an internal level. So l'chaim.
L'chaim.